So welcome back to part 4 of the restaurant landing page tutorial. Today we're going to be working on the reservations section of our page. So this is going to be our final part of the page. We're going to have a form and a map. So let's get started, shall we? Back in VS Code, and we're going to start working on our reservations section here. So having a look at what we have so far, we pretty much just have our little hero section here with our main text, our little tagline, call to action, which is a make a reservation button. We have our menu section here. We have our events section here. However, we don't yet have the reservations, which is arguably the most important part here, because that's going to be our call to action. When we click make a reservation, we want it to go to the reservation section of our page, which will be way down here at the bottom. So that's going to consist of two parts, a map and a form. So let's work on getting that map here. All we're going to do for that is embed a Google Map with within an iframe element. So all we're going to do for that, we'll just go to any area here. So we're just going to get this little map of New York. And you're going to want to click on the menu over here on the left for Google Maps. And you want to click right here where it says Share or Embed Map. And we're going to go to Embed Map right here. And that will generate our iframe for us right here. So we're just going to copy that HTML. And then we're going to throw that right here in our HTML. First things first, we want to create our section tag here. So this is going to be section with an ID of reservations. So there's our section tag, and the first thing we want to put within our section tag is that iframe. So as we can see, it fills out a few attributes for us. It sets a width and height, a style, as well as lazy loading here. So a couple things that we want to change, because we're actually going to be setting our own styles on this. Things that we're going to change here. We're just going to get rid of the width, height, and style. So just go ahead and get rid of those. And let's see, we're also going to get rid of allow full screen because we don't need that. Alrighty, so there's our iframe. And right under the iframe, we're just going to put an empty div. And you'll see why we do this in a second. But we're going to give this a class of Reservation Map. And that's just going to be an empty div, and more on that in a second. But right under that is where we're going to put our reservation form. So this is just going to be div class reservation form. So real creative with that one. But anyway, it's whatever makes sense. So within our form, we need a few things. The title, which is going to be an H1 tag, and then we're going to accept a name as an input, and we're also going to accept, let's see, I think maybe a phone number and a date. But just let's see where it goes here. Let's see what looks good. So we'll make our little title here, which is just going to say make a reservation. All right, so there's our little H1 title, and right under that, in a paragraph tag, we're going to make the name. So we're going to give this paragraph a class, and we're going to make an input right in here for name. So input name equals name, and then the type is going to be text. Now for the class. Now the class we want to give this particular class. So a few things. We're going to say validate required. So this is just going to make sure that the input is required by the form before it is accepted. And then we're going to say custom. So custom validation, we want only letters. So for that, we're going to say only letter. And we're going to put that in some square brackets here. And then for the length, we're going to set a length requirement. It can be anywhere between 0 and 100 characters. And we'll close that up. And let's see, we'll also set a feedback input here as well. And that will be it for the class. Now we'll put a little placeholder in here as well. And we'll just say for that, we'll just say name. And last but not least, we'll also give this an ID of, you guessed it, name. And then we'll go ahead and close up that input. And that's a self-closing tag. So the opening tag is also the closing tag, pretty much. So that's what that means. And that'll be it for that p tag. So we'll close that one up. And right underneath that, we're going to require a, let's see, what else should we use here? How about a, well, let's see, why do we have another p? We don't need that one. Don't need two of them there. Anyway, so we're going to add an email input. So we're going to make another p tag, and we're just going to give this one a class of email. And within here, we're going to put our input name. It's just going to be email. Type, going to be text again. And for the class, we're going to be really similar to our name input here. We're going to say validate required custom. I'm going to set that to email. And then we're just going to set feedback input again. And everything looks good there. So let's just set our ID to email. And we'll give this a placeholder as well of, you guessed it, email. And that's it for that input. So then we're going to add one more here. And this is just going to be, this one's going to be really simple. Just a date input. Not going to be required or anything. Although it probably should if you're making a reservation. We're not going to do that for this because we're not going to make this a functional form, at least in this tutorial. So we're going to say class text, and right in there we're going to put our input, which is going to be type date. And don't forget to close your input here. Let's see if I close that one. There we go. So our inputs are all closed up. We have our date input, and right under that we have one more. We just have our submit button. So let's put that in a div here. We'll say class submit and input type submit and value. So this is what the button is going to say, a submit button. It's just going to say make a reservation. Easy peasy. And then we'll just close up that input there. So there we go. We have our form here. So as you can see, we have our title here. And there's one thing I'm forgetting, actually. We'll want to put this all in a form element. Very important. Actually, don't want to forget that. So we'll say form class equals form. And we'll give this an ID of form as well. We'll say, we'll just say form1 here. All right, and that form element ends right, let's see, right, where does it end? It ends right here. Let's see, what is that p tag for? Let's see, let's see, it looks like I closed up a paragraph tag in the wrong place, so I'm just going to go back here to the name. Actually, that one gets closed up there. And this one down here is a little type, so we're going to get rid of that little guy. So it's like Bob Ross used to say, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. It doesn't quite apply to code though, because there definitely are mistakes. But anyway, where was I? We're just closing up that form tag there. Let's go ahead and save that and just have a look at what we got so far over here. Let's see. Alright, so as you can see, we have our map, and we have our H1, and we have our form with the inputs here. However, everything is looking pretty gnarly. So let's get to styling all of this, shall we? Alrighty, let's see. So back over in our CSS file here, we are going to start working on the reservation. So let's see, the first thing we want to do is target our reservations section element here with the ID of reservations. And just like the other areas of the page, we're going to give it a 100 VH height. We're going to set the display property to flex here. So this is going to be a flex container. We're going to align items, and then we're also going to justify them. So that centers everything vertically and horizontally. And then we're just going to apply a little text align center as well there. And then we'll give it some padding. Let's start off small. Let's see. Let's start with 0 top and bottom and 20 pixels. And then for our map, it's just going to be our iframe element here. We're going to set this to margin 0. We're going to set the width to 100 VW. So that means 100% of whatever the width of the container is, whatever the viewport width is, rather. So, you know, whatever the width of the window is, it'll be 100% of that. Then for the height, we'll set this to be 100%. So this is different from 100 VH in that it's just 100% of the parent container. So not 100% of the window's height, but the parent container. We're going to give this an absolute positioning. And let's see. So we'll save that. See how the map looks. There we go. So there's our map. And I actually kind of want to send that to the back. So let's just throw in a z-index here of, let's say, -1. That should do it. That should throw us back a little bit. Anyway, so that empty div that we made for the reservation map, we're going to set the background to transparent. We're going to set some padding here. And we're going to set the height. And you'll see the effect that this comes up with. And let's see, fix those little typos. And let's give this a minimum width of 40%. So 40% minimum width. So that'll be for that empty div there. And then for the reservation form. So for the form, we're just going to set a little background color here of, let's see, we're going to make this almost a full white. So let's say RGBA, we're going to get 243, 243, 243, and we're going to give it an alpha of 0.8. So we need to use RGBA when we're making a transparent or partially transparent color. So alpha of 0.8, and then we'll give it the backdrop filter blur effect of 5 pixels, like we have been doing so far with other choice elements on the page. And then we're going to set the padding, once again here, 5 VW, so 5% of the width of the viewport there. Then we'll set the height to 80% of the parent container. And we'll set the minimum width, once again, to 40%. So, as we can see, now we have our little reservation box there, and it's on the top, and we have our form right in the middle, but it's still a little ugly looking. We need to style the inputs. Okay, so now we'll start styling the inputs. So for this, we want to say input. We'll target them based on their type here. We'll say type equals text, and then type equals email, and then type equals date, and then type equals submit. And there we go. And we'll give those the following properties here. We want 100% width. We want a little padding here. 12 pixels and 20 pixels should do it. We'll add a little margin as well. Let's see, 8 pixels, 0. We're going to use display, not flex, but inline block for this. We'll give these guys a little border, 1 pixel, solid. Let's see, kind of a gray, light gray there, and we'll make them a little rounded as well. So a border radius of 4 pixels, nothing major, and of course box sizing, border box, and there we go. And then underneath that one, we will do we'll target the submit input specifically. So we'll say reservation form, submit input. And then we'll add the little kind of red background, similar to the call to action button on the first page. So the background color of this is going to be tomato, I believe it was. And the text is going to be white. And we're going to give it a little bitty white border as well, 1 pixel, solid. And let's add that little transition effect when you hover. So we're gonna target the same thing here. We're just gonna say on hover. So we'll just write hover here. So when we hover over this, we want it to transform a little bit. And we're actually gonna make this slightly smaller. So we're gonna say scale and 0.98. So very slightly smaller. And then we'll change the background color to a very similar but slightly transparent version of the tomato. So for that, we're going to have to use an RGBA value again. So we're going to go 170.99 and 0.9. That should give us a nice dark red there. And then cursor pointer, because we want the mouse to be a pointer when we are hovered. And the transition, we can't forget. So it's just going to be a 0.3 second transition there. And then we can close up our tag there, save the file, and let's see what that looks like so far. Alrighty, so as we can see, our form looks a lot better here. And it's hovering nicely over the map. And all of the inputs are the same width. And that hover effect works very nicely for our form. So anyway, that is pretty much it for our restaurant landing page, as you can see. Now it is fairly slow when I'm also doing a screen recording, so pardon that, but otherwise this looks very nice. Very nice. We have our 4 sections, our menu, events, reservations, as well as the home page, of course. So as we can see, when we're on the first page here, if we click down here to make a reservation, that'll go right to the bottom of the page. And there you have it. Anyway, thank you for watching this landing page tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. If you did, it would really help me out if you left a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.